The battlefield was quiet now, but the air still smelled of burnt metal and plasma fire. Sergeant Ethan Cole moved cautiously through the wreckage, his rifle at the ready. The war between the United Terran Forces and the Xelari Empire had been raging for years, and Ethan had seen more destruction than he cared to remember. But today felt different. Something told him he wasn't alone. A soft, pained whimper caught his attention. He turned his head sharply, scanning the debris. Behind a shattered Xelari dropship, half buried under a fallen support beam, was a figure. It was an alien, but not just any alien. She had smooth violet skin, intricate silver markings on her forehead, and long, silken black hair matted with blood. Her large, luminescent eyes flickered open, locking onto him in fear and pain. Ethan lowered his rifle slightly. Xelari were the enemy, but this one was different. She wore an ornate breastplate and a tattered royal sash. His mind raced. He had seen her before. This was Princess Solara, the heir to the Xelari throne. If the reports were true, she had been on this battlefield before her forces were ambushed. Her own people had abandoned her here. She struggled to move, but winced in pain. Ethan saw that her leg was pinned under the wreckage, and fresh blood pooled around her. He had a choice: leave her, as any soldier should when encountering an enemy, or help her and risk being labeled a traitor. He made his decision in an instant. "Stay still," he said, kneeling beside her. Her eyes widened. "You? Human?" she whispered in a shaky voice. "Yeah," Ethan said, gripping the edge of the debris. "You're lucky it's me who found you." With a grunt, he lifted the beam just enough for her to slide her leg free. She let out a muffled cry but bit her lip to keep from screaming. Ethan could see that her ankle was twisted, maybe broken. He pulled out a medical kit from his belt and tore a strip of cloth to bandage the wound. "Why? Why help?" she asked, looking at him with confusion. "You fight against us." Ethan sighed as he wrapped her injury. "I don't leave people to die, enemy or not." Solara studied him for a moment, as if searching for deception. Then she nodded, exhaustion taking over. "Humans, strange." Ethan chuckled. "Yeah, we get that a lot." He reached into his pack, pulling out a water ration. "Here, drink." She hesitated, but then took a sip, her body desperate for hydration. As she drank, Ethan glanced around. He couldn't stay here long. His squad was out there, likely searching for him. If they found him helping a Xelari royal, things could get ugly. "I need to get you out of here," Ethan said, slinging his rifle over his shoulder. "Can you stand?" Solara tried, but her injured leg gave out, and she collapsed into his arms. He caught her easily, her weight light against his armored frame. "Guess that's a no," he muttered. Without another word, he lifted her into his arms. She gasped, but he didn't give her time to protest. Moving quickly, he navigated through the rubble, keeping to the shadows. He needed to get her away from the battlefield, somewhere safe. "Your people, they left you," Ethan said as he walked. She stiffened at his words. "Yes," she admitted. "They thought I was dead, or they did not care." Ethan frowned. He had heard rumors about the Xelari ruling class. They were ruthless, valuing power above all else. If she had been deemed a liability, her own people wouldn't hesitate to abandon her. "Well, their loss," he said, "because I'm not leaving you behind." For the first time, Solara looked at him with something other than fear. There was gratitude in her glowing eyes. After what felt like an eternity, Ethan spotted an old supply bunker half buried in the dirt. It was small but stable enough to serve as a temporary shelter. He kicked the door open and carried her inside, laying her gently on the ground. "This should keep us hidden for now," he said, grabbing a small light from his belt and setting it on the ground. "I'll make sure you don't die out here." Solara stared at him, her expression unreadable. "You are unlike any human I was told about." Ethan smirked. "You're not as terrifying as the stories say." A small, tired smile touched her lips. "Perhaps there is more to both our kinds than war." Ethan sat beside her, leaning against the wall. "Maybe," he handed her another water pack. "For now, let's just focus on keeping you alive." The night passed slowly. Ethan listened carefully for any sounds of patrols while Solara drifted in and out of consciousness. He kept checking her wound, ensuring it wasn't getting worse. At one point, she stirred and whispered, "Thank you, Ethan." Hearing his name from her lips made something shift inside him. He wasn't sure what it was, but he knew one thing. He couldn't abandon her now. As dawn approached, Ethan knew they needed to move. He fashioned a crude splint for her leg and helped her stand. She gripped his arm tightly, leaning on him for support. "Where will we go?" she asked. Ethan glanced toward the distant hills. "There's an old Terran outpost about 10 clicks from here. If we can reach it, we might find transport." Solara nodded, determination flashing in her tired eyes. "Then let's go." With slow, careful steps, they began their journey, two enemies forced together by fate. But in that moment, neither of them thought about war, duty, or orders. They were just two souls trying to survive.